Indeed. And as you also pointed out, there is much promise for, for relations between labor and government not to be necessarily bellicose, because as you pointed out, what labor wants is what government also wants. Labor, of course, wants the best of conditions possible within the resources available for its workers. But the fact that government was also able to engage, they actually, following their conversation and engagement, they actually improved on an offer that they had made earlier. And all of this, of course, has to be paid for. But then it was a matter of, well, it doesn't. The important thing here is harmony within labor, because that harmony is going to be crucial, as you have also indicated by some of the things you said. It's going to be crucial when it comes to achieving our economic goals, because it's the workers that are going to really work the economy more than anything else. So people just have to be on board. And it seemed to me that most observers would think that government was leaning over backwards. It's not just, in fact, the whole attitude, the whole body language of government was more towards, unlike complaints that we'd had in the past that we weren't being listened to, they were simply forcing it down our throats. I think even labor is probably going to be better disposed, looking at what happened then, as we go forward, for some of the other tough things that they have asked for and that government has actually put out a statement on, that is going to have to be sourced one way or the other. So labor is going to see that this government is a listening government. It is actually, on our side as much as we are. Of course, there will always be differences. Labor will want 100. Government will say, but it is that very 100 that we have. That is the only 100 that we have. Can we find a way to take some things out of that for some other things that you people will also want as well? So it just looks like, it seemed like the beginning of possibly a new era in government-labor relations, all other things being equal, because one has to keep one's fingers crossed once you're talking about labor and government, and hope that the party continues for a while.
I think apart from keeping fingers crossed, I think we need to also have the confidence, to believe that it is possible. Look, when I commended President Asuwaju, I was not just commending him because I'm APC and because I'm a supporter of his government. I'm commending him because this is about the first time a president is making a broadcast, putting things on the table in a manner that clearly suggests he was sensitive to the fact that we are on the eve of a strike, and he wanted to preempt it. But even after that, in most cases, such kind of pronouncement will only come after the strike has commenced. And the president will present it as a conclusive issue. Now, in this particular case, it appeared that after he made the broadcast, he gave directive to the government team to invite Labour to a meeting. And within the same day, on the 1st October, Labour was invited. And at the meeting, instead of the normal grandstanding that used to happen when president has spoken, to say, look, government has made all your demand, go back, there is no need for strike. That didn't appear to be what has happened. What has happened was that the issues contained in the president's speech became proposals. And Labour were allowed to engage it and criticize it, made additional, and that began to shift. If you remember, the first pronouncement that came was that the 25,000 naira was to be administered to junior federal employees. Now, immediately after the first level of negotiation, there was report that the 25,000 will be administered to all category of employees in federal government, which must have been informed by the position of Labour. And it showed that the government, like you said, is truly a listening government and is really interested in ensuring that the strike threat is removed. Now, after even the agreement was announced, the Chief of Staff to the President, Right Honorable Femi Bajabiamila, came on air again to announce that government has reviewed the 25,000 upward to 35,000 naira, and it will be administered to all federal employees. I think this must have given the confidence to Labour to say, well, okay, government is really serious. So on the basis of this, we agree we'll go back to our constituency and report back, and hopefully the strike, and that was what happened. The strike was removed. Of course, now, I think the point that we must continue to emphasize is that this gives us the template. If truly we want to ensure harmony between government and organized labor, and by extension, even between government and citizens, there has to be this kind of atmosphere whereby government is able to relate, sit down on the table with organized groups, without the normal arrogance of saying that, look, this is our position, we grandstand, and then the other group now will now imagine that unless they go on strike or protest, government is not going to shift. We have seen from this that it's a simple courtesy of sitting on the table and having that listening ear that will enable all parties to strike an agreement. Of course, it does not mean when agreement is reached, everybody will be satisfied. There will still be room, but that is why, life is about constant dynamic factors, which will keep changing. But once that relationship is established, the negotiation will continue. Now, the point I must stress is that there are structures in Ministry of Labor that should have the responsibility to drive the process of managing this new relationship between government and labor.
Okay.
The danger always has been that after agreement, we fall back to business as usual, and until another problem emerges before we return. I think that shouldn't be the case. And this will require that some reform take place in Ministry of Labor. We must not assume, ideally, there should be skills in terms of managing processes of negotiation in Ministry of Labor. Now, there has to be some level of auditing in terms of the availability of those skills. If those skills are not readily available, then there has to be, as part of the reform, strategy to ensure that those skills are mobilized and made domicile in Ministry of Labor to drive the process. And there are many, for instance, to the best of my knowledge, ILO, for instance, International Labour Organization, one of their commitment, and there are so many bilateral agreements between Nigeria and ILO in terms of developing the capacity of Ministry of Labor. Now, government should take advantage of all those multilateral agreements and even the relationship with ILO to begin to now reposition Ministry of Labor to drive all these processes. So that, because my argument is that Labor must be able to, beyond sitting with federal government, to also separately sit with state governments and private employers to negotiate this thing based on the capacity of this level of government and based on a strategy to also strike an agreement about those things I call qualitative issues that will lead to the expansion of the revenue base and earning of this organization so that workers can be able to earn more. Now, why are we crying over increasing prices of fuel subsidy? Largely is because relative to the earning or income of citizens, the increase in prices have taken substantial part of it. But if there is a corresponding initiative to expand the revenue base of government and revenue base of employers, then earning of workers and citizens can also equally be expanded. I think this will be my stronger recommendation, Mr. Yuri.